High in a quiet mountain valley, where the trees stand heavy and silent beneath the snow, a small wooden cabin glows warm against the falling dark. Tonight, we are going somewhere very far from anywhere that hurries. There are no clocks here that matter, no schedules that press against your chest, only the soft, steady hush of snow falling outside a small window, and the low, contented crackle of a fire burning in a stone hearth. This is a place built for slowness, a place where the outside world has been gently muffled by drifts of white, where the wind moves through distant pines with a sound like a held breath slowly released, and where nothing at all is asking to be done. This is the story of an evening spent inside that cabin, wrapped in warm blankets, a book resting closed on a lap that has stopped minding whether it is ever opened again. There is a particular kind of comfort in a small space made entirely for warmth, a space where every object, the worn armchair, the crackling fire, the heavy woolen blankets, exists for no reason at all beyond simple, unhurried rest. Tonight, we borrow that comfort for ourselves, settling into it slowly, the same way snow settles onto a quiet roof, without effort, without rush, simply arriving, gently, exactly where it belongs. You don't need to remember any of the details. You don't need to follow the story closely at all. Let your body sink into whatever surface is holding you now. Let your eyes soften, half close if they haven't already. Somewhere in the room, if you like. Let the lights dim low, the way the cabin's own firelight will dim slowly as this story unfolds. There is nowhere else you need to be tonight. There is nothing here that asks anything of you except rest. There is no danger in this story, no sudden turn waiting to surprise you, only a small cabin, a warm fire, and snow falling softly outside for as long as the night allows. If your mind begins to wander as we go, that is more than all right. That is, in fact, exactly what this story hopes for. Let the words become distant and soft, like a voice heard through a closed door, like snowfall itself heard from somewhere deep inside a warm and heavy sleep. Let your breathing begin, even now, to slow. There is nowhere to rush toward. There is nothing waiting on the other side of this story except more stillness, more quiet, more soft and unbroken rest. If your thoughts drift away from these words entirely, into the soft, unformed shapes of your own dreams, let them go gladly. That is not a failure of listening. That is, quite simply, this story doing exactly what it was made to do. We begin, as such evenings always begin, with the settling of the snow. Outside the cabin, the snow falls in slow, unhurried spirals, drifting down through the darkness in soft, weightless clusters, each flake finding its own quiet path toward the ground. There is no wind tonight to hurry it along, only the gentlest drift of cold night air, carrying the snow gently, patiently, the way a hand might carry something fragile and small. It gathers on the sloped roof of the cabin in a thick, even blanket, rounding every hard edge into something soft and pillowed, and it gathers, too, along the low stone wall that borders the small clearing, and on the branches of the tall pines that stand watch just beyond. The pines themselves have taken on a hushed, sculptural stillness, their dark green boughs bowed gently beneath the weight of the snow, each one dressed now in a fine, soft coat of white that catches what little light escapes from the cabin windows and holds it there, glowing faintly, gently, like something remembering warmth. Beneath them, the forest floor has disappeared entirely beneath an unbroken sheet of snow, smooth and pale and untouched, stretching away into darkness in every direction. Inside, the cabin holds its own small world of warmth, entirely separate from the cold hush outside, though the two remain in constant, quiet conversation through the old glass window panes. The walls are built of thick, honey-colored logs, their surfaces worn smooth and softened by age, holding within their grain the faint, comforting scent of old pine and years of gentle wood smoke. A small fire burns low and steady in the stone hearth at the room's center, its flames moving in slow, unhurried motion, orange and gold, casting a warm, flickering light across the wooden floor and up along the beams of the low ceiling. The scent of the fire fills the room gently, wood smoke mingled with something faintly sweet, the last trace of pine sap warming in the heat, and beneath that, the soft, dusty smell of old books and wool blankets, of a room lived in slowly, over many quiet winters. A kettle rests near the hearth's edge, not yet needed, its copper surface catching small glints of firelight, waiting patiently for whenever it might be called upon. The floor is covered here and there with thick woven rugs, their colors deep and muted, reds and browns, softened by years of firelight and use, comfortable beneath bare feet that have long since stopped needing shoes indoors. A worn armchair sits close to the hearth, angled just so, its cushions soft and slightly sunken, in the shape of countless evenings spent exactly like this one. Beside it, a small wooden table holds a single candle, unlit for now, and a stack of well-loved books, their spines creased and familiar. Snow continues to gather on the windowsill outside, a thin, growing ridge of white pressing gently against the old glass, and through that glass the dark shapes of the pines can just be made out, swaying only faintly, patient beneath their heavy white coats. Every so often a soft gust moves through the clearing, and a small cascade of snow slips from a low branch, falling silently, without sound, back into the drift below. The fire crackles low and steady, sending up small showers of orange sparks that rise and vanish before they ever reach the chimney's dark mouth, and the sound of it, that soft, familiar crackle, fills the cabin's quiet in the gentlest possible way, a sound that asks nothing, offers everything, simply continues, warm and constant, exactly as it has continued all evening long. The door itself is heavy and simple, made of thick planked wood, its iron hinges dark and slightly rough with age, and a small woven mat rests just inside it, worn soft by years of boots stamped free of snow before crossing further into the room. Beside the door, a row of wooden pegs holds a heavy coat and a knitted scarf, both quiet now, both finished with their work for the evening, waiting patiently for whatever morning errand might eventually call them back outside. The fire itself sits within a wide stone hearth, its surrounding stones rounded smooth by heat and years, each one holding faintly, even now, some remembered warmth from countless fires before this one. Above the hearth, a simple wooden mantel holds a few small, quiet objects. A round tin clock, ticking softly and unhurried. A smooth grey stone gathered once from some nearby stream. A small dried bundle of lavender, its scent faint now, but still just perceptible beneath the deeper smell of wood smoke. Near the far wall, a narrow window seat has been built into the log frame itself, cushioned with a thick, faded quilt, and piled with a small collection of mismatched pillows gathered over many winters, each one soft and slightly worn in its own particular way. It is the kind of place made for sitting quietly with a warm drink, perhaps watching the snow fall without needing to do anything else at all, and tonight, like most nights, it waits patiently, unused for now, holding its own small share of the room's gathered warmth. Near the small kitchen corner, a modest counter of the same honey-toned wood holds a simple cutting board, a few clean mugs turned upside down to dry, and a small iron pot, all quiet now, all finished with their part in the evening. A single window above the counter looks out over the same snow-heavy clearing as the others, its view softened by a light dusting of frost gathering slowly along the glass. A row of dried herbs hangs from a low beam near the small kitchen corner, their bundled stems tied with simple string, filling the air faintly with rosemary and something sweeter, something like dried mountain flowers gathered in some warmer season now long past. Beneath them, a modest shelf holds a few simple jars, flour and oats and dried berries, everything needed, nothing more, arranged with the unhurried tidiness of someone who has long since made peace with simplicity. The ceiling beams overhead are thick and dark with age, running the length of the cabin in slow, steady lines, and the firelight catches them unevenly, warm on their lower curves, shadowed deep along their upper edges, giving the whole ceiling a soft, uneven, living texture, the way old wood always seems to hold a kind of quiet motion, even when perfectly still. A single oil lamp, unlit for now, hangs from a hook near the door, its glass globe catching small glints of firelight, waiting patiently for whenever it might be needed. Outside, the snow has begun to gather more thickly along the lower edge of the door, a soft ridge of white pressing gently against the old wood, and every so often a faint draught slips beneath it, cool and clean, carrying with it the crisp, mineral scent of true winter air, quickly warmed and softened by the fires. Steady glow before it can settle anywhere uncomfortable. A worn broom leans quietly in the corner nearest the door, its bristles softened by years of gentle sweeping, kept close for whenever fresh snow finds its way in on careless boots. Beside it, a small basket holds a few extra logs, split and stacked neatly, ready for whenever the fire might ask for them, though tonight it seems content enough with what it already has. Beneath the window seat, a low wooden chest holds spare blankets and quilts, most unused tonight, kept ready for colder nights or unexpected guests, their folded shapes just visible through the chest's slightly open lid, soft and neutral in color, waiting patiently in the dim light. A pair of thick wool socks rests nearby, draped over the arm of a second. Smaller chair set a little further from the fire, left there sometime earlier in the evening, and forgotten for now. The walls nearest the hearth have darkened slightly over the years, warmed and smoked by countless fires into a deeper, richer shade than the honey-colored wood further from the flames, a gentle gradient of color marking, without any need for words, exactly how long this particular corner of the cabin has been serving as its warm, beating heart. Small nail holes and faint marks here and there speak of decorations hung and taken down across many seasons, though tonight the walls hold little beyond a single small painting of distant mountain peaks, its colors soft and muted, barely visible in the low firelight. The whole cabin seems, in this slow unfolding hour, to be settling more fully into itself. Wood and stone and fire and quiet, all finding their easy places, the way a body settles more fully into a chair the longer it sits there, unhurried, entirely at ease. There is nothing here that needs tending urgently. There is nothing here that needs fixing, or finishing, or attending to before the night grows any later. There is only the fire, and the snow, and the small, warm, contained world holding steady between them. Beyond the window, the world has grown entirely white and hushed, snow blanketing every surface, softening every sound, wrapping the whole mountain valley in a stillness so complete it seems almost to hum. Inside, the small cabin holds its warmth close, firelight glowing steady against honey-colored wood, entirely its own small, contained world, entirely separate from the vast, quiet cold outside, and entirely, wonderfully safe. A figure settles now into the worn armchair near the hearth, drawing a thick woolen blanket up over their lap, tucking its soft edges gently around themselves, with the unhurried care of someone who has done this exact thing 100 times before and expects to do it 100 times more. The blanket smells faintly of cedar, kept folded in a chest lined with the wood, and beneath that, the warm, clean scent of wool that has spent countless evenings this close to the fire. They reach for one of the books resting on the small wooden table, its cover soft with age, its pages slightly yellowed, holding within them the particular quiet weight of a story read many times before, comfortable now in its familiarity, requiring nothing new to be understood. They open it slowly, without urgency, and let their eyes settle on the page, though it hardly matters, tonight, whether the words are truly followed or simply allowed to drift past, soft and half-formed, like snow outside the window. The firelight flickers gently across the page, orange and warm, and the sound of the fire continues its low, steady crackle beside them, a sound so constant, so unbroken, that it soon becomes less like something heard and more like something felt, a warmth settling into the chest alongside the physical warmth of the blanket and the flames. Outside, the snow continues to fall, silent and endless, visible only as a soft grey movement beyond the dark glass of the window. Every so often, they glance up from the book, unhurried, and look toward the window, watching the snow gather a little thicker on the sill, watching the pines beyond grow a little softer, a little more indistinct, wrapped now in a gentle white haze. There is no need to finish the chapter tonight. There is no need to finish anything tonight. The book rests, closed or open, exactly as it wishes to rest, and the evening continues on regardless, patient and unbothered, exactly as it always does. The kettle, forgotten for a while, begins to murmur softly on its hook near the fire, and they rise, slowly, unhurried, to lift it, wrapping the handle in a worn cloth, kept beside the hearth for exactly this purpose. Steam rises in a soft curl, catching the firelight in pale, drifting wisps, and the scent of warm water, mingled with wood smoke, fills the small room gently, comfortingly, the particular scent of a cabin evening settling further into itself. They pour the water slowly into a waiting cup over dried mountain herbs kept in a small tin on the shelf above the hearth, and the scent that rises now is soft and green, faintly sweet, mingling easily with the deeper scent of the fire. They wrap both hands around the cup, feeling its gentle warmth seep slowly into their palms, and settle back into the armchair, the blanket drawn once more up over their lap, the book resting closed now on the small table beside them, no longer needed, its purpose for tonight already quietly fulfilled. The basket of split logs sits close by, ready should the fire ever ask for more, though for now it remains untouched. Its neat stack undisturbed, one more small, patient presence in a room full of them tonight. The book on the small table is one they have read before, more than once, and there is a particular comfort in that, in knowing exactly how the story unfolds, in needing no suspense to hold their attention, only the gentle, familiar rhythm of well-loved sentences passing slowly through the mind. Some evenings they read a full chapter. Some evenings, like this one, they read only a page or half a page before letting their eyes drift instead to the fire, to the window, to nothing at all in particular, and that has always felt, to them, like exactly the right way to read a book meant purely for comfort rather than progress. Steam continues to rise from the tea, and they lift the cup slowly, breathing in the soft, green scent before drinking, feeling the warmth travel gently down through their chest, settling somewhere close to where the blanket's warmth is already settled. The two kinds of comfort joining together into one larger, steadier warmth. Outside, the wind moves faintly through the highest branches of the pines, a sound so soft it barely qualifies as sound at all, more a shift in the quality of the silence than any true noise. They glance toward the window again, and notice that the ridge of snow along the outer sill has grown a little higher since they last looked, though they could not say exactly when that happened, the change so gradual it seemed to occur entirely outside of ordinary time. That, too, feels right for an evening like this one, time moving in its own soft, ungraspable way, more like the slow drift of snow than the sharp tick of any clock. Outside, a fresh gust moves briefly through the clearing, and for a moment the snowfall thickens visibly beyond the glass, flakes catching what little light escapes the window and swirling gently before settling once more into their slow, steady descent. It passes quickly, the gust fading back into stillness, and the snow returns to its earlier, unhurried rhythm, falling straight and slow through calm night air. On the counter in the kitchen corner, the clean mugs sit undisturbed, drying quietly in the low light, and the small iron pot rests beside them, its work for the day long finished, waiting patiently now for whatever simple breakfast morning might eventually bring. None of it needs attention tonight. All of it can simply wait, quiet and unhurried, exactly the way the whole cabin seems content to wait. They pull the blanket a little higher, tucking it more snugly around their shoulders, and settle deeper into the chair's familiar shape, feeling the day's small tiredness finally beginning to loosen and let go. There is nowhere else tonight that could possibly be more comfortable than exactly here, this particular chair, this particular fire, this particular soft, warm hour of a long winter evening. The fire needs tending eventually, and after a while they rise, unhurried, and add one more log to the low flames, watching as the new wood catches slowly, the fire brightening briefly before settling back into its familiar, steady glow. They stand there a moment longer than necessary, simply watching the flames find their new rhythm, feeling the fire's warmth against their shins, before returning once more to the armchair, the blanket, the tea now cooling slightly but still pleasant, still comforting in its familiar, wrapped hands' warmth. They think for a moment of the walk earlier in the day that brought them back to the cabin just as the first flakes began to fall, boots crunching softly over half-frozen ground, breath visible in small, pale clouds, the whole world holding that particular hush that always seems to arrive just before a real snowfall begins in earnest. It had felt even then like the beginning of exactly this kind of evening, unhurried and warm and entirely uneventful in the best possible way. They think, too, of other winters spent in this same cabin, other fires built in this same hearth, other blankets drawn up over other tired legs, on other quiet nights, just like this one. There is a particular comfort in that kind of repetition, in knowing that this evening is not unique, not special in any way that needs remembering, but simply one more small, warm link in a long, steady chain of evenings, very much like it, stretching backward through years and forward, presumably through many more winters yet to come. A soft sound comes from somewhere near the roofline, snow shifting slightly under its own accumulated weight, sliding a little further down the slope before settling again, and they listen to it without any concern at all, simply another small, gentle sound belonging entirely to this particular kind of evening, this particular kind of shelter. The cabin has weathered many winters exactly like this one. It knows precisely how to hold itself steady beneath the snow's gentle, gathering weight. Outside, the snow continues to fall in slow, unhurried spirals, and inside, the fire continues its low, steady burn, and the two, snow and fire, cold and warmth, hold their gentle balance exactly as they have all evening, exactly as they will for however long this quiet night continues. The fire settles lower now, its flames softer, less eager, content simply to glow rather than leap, casting a low, steady amber light across the room. The logs shift occasionally with a soft, settling sound, and a small shower of sparks rises briefly before fading back into warm orange stillness. Outside, the snow continues, falling, gathering, falling. The cup of tea sits half finished on the small table, still warm, its gentle steam rising in slow, thinning curls. The blanket lies heavy and warm across two tired legs. The chair holds its familiar, well-worn shape, cradling a body that has slowly stopped needing to move at all. Snow gathers on the windowsill. Slowly, steadily, snow gathers on the roof above. Slowly, steadily, snow gathers on the branches of the tall pines beyond the glass. Slowly, steadily, the fire glows low and warm. The room grows quiet. The night grows deep. Somewhere beyond the window, an owl calls once, softly, from deep within the snow-laden pines, its voice muffled by distance and falling snow into something gentle, something almost like a lullaby carried on cold night air. It is not answered. It does not need to be. The sound simply exists for a moment and then fades, absorbed once more into the hush of the falling snow. The fire crackles, low, slow, steady. The clock on the mantel, its ticking soft and unhurried, marks time that no longer feels urgent, each second folding gently into the next, indistinguishable from the one before it. Nobody is watching it closely tonight. Nobody needs to. The blanket grows warmer. The chair grows softer. The eyelids grow heavier. Outside, the snow falls, steady, silent, endless. Inside, the fire burns, steady, warm, golden. The room holds its breath, gently, the way a held breath feels when nothing at all is wrong, when there is simply nowhere else that needs attending to, nothing else that needs to be done, only this slow, warm, unhurried stillness, deepening a little further with every passing, unremarkable minute. The oil lamp by the door remains unlit. It has not been needed tonight. The firelight alone has been enough, warm and low and steady, filling the small room with all the light it requires, leaving the corners softly shadowed in a way that feels comfortable rather than concerning, the natural gentle dimness of a room settling toward sleep. The window seat sits empty still, its quilt undisturbed, its pillows holding their soft shapes exactly as they were left, waiting patiently for some future evening when it might be wanted. Tonight, the armchair has been enough. Tonight, the fire has been close enough, warm enough, familiar enough, to hold the whole evening's quiet comfort within its small reach. In the small kitchen corner, the clean mugs and quiet iron pot sit exactly where they were left, untouched, unneeded, patient in the same low, settling light as everything else in the room. The frost along the counter window has thickened slightly, its pale, feathered patterns catching the faintest trace of firelight from across the room. The small painting of distant peaks above the mantel has grown almost invisible in the low light. Now its soft colors dissolved into the deepening shadow, though its presence remains felt somehow, one more quiet, familiar shape belonging to this particular room. The spare blankets in the wooden chest sit undisturbed, folded and patient, needing nothing tonight beyond the simple, steady task of waiting. The tin clock on the mantel continues its slow, patient ticking, each small sound folding gently into the room's larger quiet rather than disturbing it, the way a single thread disappears into a larger weave. The smooth grey stone beside it sits exactly where it has always sat, catching every so often a small glint of firelight along its curved surface, then losing it again as the flames shift and settle. Somewhere beneath the floorboards, the old wood settles with a soft, occasional creak, the sound a house makes when it too seems to be relaxing into the night, shifting slightly, comfortably, the way any tired, well-used thing shifts when it is finally allowed to rest. The sound is not unfamiliar. It has been heard on countless evenings before this one, and it carries with it no concern at all, only the quiet, comfortable knowledge of an old, well-built shelter settling contentedly around the small, warm life inside it. Dried herbs above the kitchen shelf sway faintly in some draught too gentle to name, their soft rustle barely audible beneath the fire's steady crackle, one more small thread woven into the room's quiet fabric of sound. The jars on the shelf below sit undisturbed, their contents settled, needing nothing more tonight than to simply wait for morning. Outside, the snow deepens further still across the clearing, filling in the last remaining traces of any path that might once have crossed it, smoothing the whole visible world into soft, continuous white. Nothing moves out there now, except the snow itself, drifting endlessly downward in its slow, unhurried spirals, patient and silent and endless. The fire has burned down to a low, steady glow now, orange, soft, warm. The room is dim, quiet, still. Snow continues outside the window, soft, slow, endless. The blanket rests heavy across tired legs, warm, familiar, safe. Eyes grow heavier, slower to open, slower to stay open. The fire glows, the snow falls, the room breathes, in, slow, out, slower. A log shifts gently in the hearth, a small settling sound, nothing more. The tea has gone cool now, forgotten, resting quietly on the table. The book rests closed nearby, its story paused, unhurried, waiting for some other evening. Somewhere far off, the wind moves once through the pines, soft and low, then fades again to nothing. The small painting above the mantel has vanished fully now into shadow, The wooden chest sits closed and quiet in its corner. The basket of logs waits untouched beside the hearth. The pegs by the door hold their coat and scarf, still and patient. Nothing in the room stirs beyond the fire's own slow, gentle settle. The cabin holds its warmth, the cabin holds its quiet. The cabin holds this one long, slow, unhurried moment and does not let it go. Firelight flickers gently across the ceiling beams. Slow shapes, soft shadows, warm light. The chair cradles a body grown heavy with rest. The blanket holds in all its gathered warmth. Breathing slows further, matching without effort the slow settle of the fire. In, out, in, slower. Snow gathers on the window seat's outer sill. Unseen, unhurried, the dried herbs above the shelf sway once, then still. The house settles, a soft creak, then quiet again. The lamp by the door stays dark, unneeded. The fire holds its low, steady glow, warm, unwavering, patient. The blanket's weight feels good now, heavier, softer, right. The armchair holds its shape around a body finally, fully still. Somewhere outside, snow slides once from a high branch. A soft, brief hush, then nothing. The fire glows, the snow falls, the room breathes, slower now than before. In, out, slower still. Outside, the snow continues to fall, soft and endless, settling now in deep, smooth drifts across the clearing, across the roof, across the low stone wall at the edge of the trees. The pines stand heavier now beneath their white coats, patient, still, holding their quiet vigil over the small glowing cabin beneath them. Inside, the fire has settled to little more than a low bed of glowing embers, orange light pulsing faintly, gently, with none of the eager brightness it held earlier in the evening. It asks nothing more of the room now than to simply exist, warm and slow, a quiet ember heart at the center of the small dark space. The broom rests quietly in its corner, the basket of logs still full beside the hearth, both untouched, both simply waiting. The way everything in the cabin now seems content to wait. Near the door, the heavy coat and knitted scarf hang undisturbed on their wooden pegs, patient until morning. The mat beneath them holds no fresh snow tonight, no boots yet to greet, only the quiet, settled stillness of a threshold that has, for now, finished its evening's small work entirely. The blanket has grown heavier somehow, or perhaps it is simply that the body beneath it has grown too comfortable, too settled, to notice its weight at all anymore. The armchair holds its familiar shape around a form that has long since stopped shifting, stopped adjusting, stopped doing anything at all but resting, fully, completely, in the warm hush of the room. The book remains closed on the small table, its pages resting undisturbed, its story patient, willing to wait for another evening exactly like this one. The teacup sits cool and empty now, its small task for the evening long since finished. Outside, the snow falls softer now, if such a thing is possible, the flakes smaller, slower, more like a whispered afterthought than the steady fall of earlier in the night. The pines stand hushed and white beneath a sky too clouded now to show its stars, and the whole mountain valley seems to settle a little deeper into its own vast, quiet stillness. The fire's embers glow low and warm, pulsing gently, faithfully, needing no one now to watch them work. The room around them grows dimmer, the shadows softer, the whole cabin folding slowly, gently, into the deep hush of the night. Snow gathers on the sill. The embers glow soft and low. The blanket holds its warmth. The breathing in the armchair slows further, deeper, softer, matching at last the slow, unhurried rhythm of the falling snow outside. The fire dims, the snow falls. Somewhere on the shelf, the dried herbs hang still and quiet, their soft scent settled now into the room's deeper hush. The window seat waits, unused but not forgotten, its quilt still holding a faint warmth borrowed from the nearby hearth. The oil lamp by the door remains unlit, and will stay that way until some other evening calls for it. Outside, the last visible traces of the day have long since vanished beneath the snow. The clearing and the path, and the low stone wall, all smoothed now into one continuous, gentle white, patient, beneath a sky too clouded to show even a single star. The pines stand heavy and still, holding their quiet vigil the way they have held it every winter night before this one, and will hold it again, unhurried, faithful, long after this particular night has folded itself softly into memory. The fire's last embers pulse once, gently, then settle further, needing nothing more from the night than permission to simply glow, low and warm, for as long as the dark allows. The room around them has grown almost fully dim now, shadows softening every edge, the whole small cabin folding gently inward around its own quiet, contained warmth. The cabin rests, warm and small and safe, beneath its heavy blanket of white, and everything inside it, at last, grows still. Everything, at last, is at rest.